Welcome to the University of Michigan Dentistry Podcast Series, promoting oral health care worldwide.
The job interview is actually an exchange of information between the dentist and the candidate for employment. Here to offer some suggestions on interviewing technique are Mr. Joe Consani from the University of Michigan, Dr. Barbara Weir, a private practitioner, and Dr. Ray Falasco from the University of Michigan. I think we'd like to start our program today with talking about the credentials and how we might select someone for an actual interview. In other words, do we interview everyone that sends in an application, or how do we select someone for an interview?
Well, obviously, I don't think that you can interview everyone that would make application for the position. You might have 10 or 15 people that apply for a particular position in a dental office. I think what you really need to do is take the applications and resumes and look at these and compare them to your job description, and then take possibly 3 or 4 that match your job description the best and set these people up for an interview.
How would you prepare for an interview in terms of some sort of a guide, or how do you actually go about sort of preparing for it, Barbara?
Well, I have a certain number of questions that I like to ask people. I like to have a very relaxed atmosphere. We just sit down and we chat about what someone is looking for in a position, what their career goals are.
About how much time, Mr. Consani, would you say it would require for an adequate interview?
Well, certainly you want to have enough time, whatever that is, and you take the interview in whatever direction that it might go. Some people are very nervous and upset. It takes longer to quiet those people down and make them more relaxed. It also depends upon whether you're going to give any kind of testing in this process. Most large employers are steering away from testing now to a great extent because they're so difficult to validate. Many of the tests that we thought were standardized turn out to be either culturally or ethnically biased in some way, and so they can be challenged. So generally people are not doing the kind of testing for employment
so it's not a good idea to bring a dental assistant in and give her an amalgam carver or amalgam packer and ask her to pack amalgam, or to mix up some cement and timer and check her and see if she can do that.
Well, the thing is that you have to be consistent. If you're going to do that, then you have to do it for everyone. You just can't select one person and say, I'm going to give this person a test and not give that same test to everybody else. And also the results of the test. If you expect a certain level of performance as a requirement for the job, then again, you can't hire somebody later on who didn't meet that requirement.
I'd like to get back again to some sort of standard procedure. I know a lot of people, when they interview in a private dental office, they just sort of pick up the application form and just sort of run down and say, oh, I see that you're 18 or 20 and you're married or not married. And they sort of pick off questions like that. Is there not a better way, a more standard procedure that one might follow for an interview?
I think there is. I think if you interview enough, it gets rather boring, and the applicant can tell that. They know that this is going to be a very routine kind of thing. They feel that they're kind of being put through the mill. So you can ask very non-directive kinds of questions. Just tell me about yourself. Instead of my going through the application, tell me about yourself. The applicant might tell you a lot of things that are illegal to ask, but you didn't ask the question. So I think that kind of thing, tell me about your family, tell me about your interests, just non-directive leads sometime will open that applicant up and make them feel more comfortable, and you'll get a lot of information that way.
I think if there is something on the application form or the resume, for example, that you would like to delve into a little bit further, that you should possibly take down a little note that you would like to look into this a little bit further. I think it's important to study the application form and the resume beforehand so that you're prepared and not just come in, as was mentioned, with the application in front of you and start throwing out questions to the applicant.
We have certain questions that we've designed into our application form, certain leading questions in terms of what are your hobbies, what are your outside activities. what did you enjoy most about your last position? What are you looking for in terms of a career? And those are very useful, I find, that I can scan down those and just sit down and chit-chat with an applicant.
What about the setting? I mean, where should one conduct the interview, say in a private dental office? In the waiting room or in the operatory?
Well, I find it more convenient in my office to take someone into my private office, which is kind of out of the way, very quiet, and just sit down. We have a number of chairs there, and we can just sit back, offer them a cup of coffee if they'd like, and just make it as relaxed as possible and not delve right into, well, I see your name is da-da-da-da, and go down the application form. I like to just sit back and kind of feel out someone, see how they are, see how composed they are, if they're nervous, and kind of lead them into some conversation.
Again, it's a question of time, but you can't be impatient in this process, and you must allocate enough time to do a good job.
I think the biggest mistake people make is trying to squeeze them in between patients, trying to interview on your lunch hour, this and that. I really like to set aside a day, take my day off or whatever day, and just make that the interview day and let the people come in and kind of watch them in the waiting room and, you know, just observe everything that's happening.
Of course, that's hard to do if you're turning over personnel once every 3 weeks or something. You just can't take that much time, but you just have to balance your priorities and determine that, hopefully if you're doing a good job.
Yeah, maybe those are the people that need to set aside a special day.
I think maybe another important thing is when you're interviewing, at least I found this to be true when I was doing it in my office, I didn't want to have the desk, my private desk, between me and the person I was interviewing. Many dentists, I think, make the mistake of sitting behind their desk. The person they're interviewing is sitting right opposite the desk. I think this kind of presents a barrier, physical and psychological, between you and the person you're interviewing. Also, it kind of gives the person you're interviewing the idea that you're the authority, you're the big authoritarian figure, and I don't think that you want to project this type of image.
The problem with that is that you don't want to appear too cozy either. You don't want to be too chummy with this person. This is going to be a working, formal relationship, and so you have to guard against being too informal in the process.
We've pre-recorded an interview. I'd like to show it to you now. We'll ask for your comments when we return.
How are you today, Miss Kitty?
Fine, thank you, Doctor. How are you?
Okay, thank you. May I call you Cindy?
Yes, fine. My friends do call me Cindy.
Okay. Did you drive in from Dearborn today?
Yes, I did. Dearborn Heights.
I noticed you lived in Dearborn. Do you commute every day?
Yes, I do.
Oh, very good. How do you feel about commuting to Ann Arbor?
It's fine. I shoot up 94 right there, and the traffic is fine, so there's no prohibitions.
Has it warmed up any?
Yes, it has. The sun's still out.
It was pretty cold this morning.
Yes.
Well, I hope our interview helps us to know each other a little better. Just a few questions that I'd like to ask you and see how you feel about dentistry and dental assisting. I'm kind of curious, what made you interested in the dental field?
That's an easy question to answer because I've been to the dentist for frequent visits when I was younger, and I got into the habit of asking questions about all the equipment and machinery, and I think that had a lot to do with getting involved in the dental assisting field.
Oh, that's good. Well, do you see dental assisting then as more of a goal, more of a lifelong goal, or something that you'd like to do for a long time?
Yes, and maybe raise a family and also have something to fall back on, too.
Oh, very good. How do you feel about the training and experience that you've had so far in dental assisting?
I feel very lucky to have such good training. I've had a lot of clinical experience as well as lab, and I feel that I have all the aspects of the dental assisting field.
Oh, just what are you looking for in a job?
I'm looking for a dental assisting office that will provide me with the opportunity to enhance all my dental assisting skills to their fullest extent, which will include maybe lab work, chairside, and some business management also.
Oh, you like all those different
yes,
aspects
I'd like to.
of it. Well, of all the jobs, I noticed from your resume that you've had practice in a private practice and you had some experience in a clinical setting. Which of the jobs that you've had do you like best?
I've really enjoyed working in the private office because it tended to give me a more personalized environment, and I like that idea of being more personalized with your patients.
Mhm. Would you like then prefer, say, a smaller office with just a few people, or an office with a larger team setting, still in a private office?
I would go with the larger team
You would
staff,
go with the
yes.
larger team.
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Do you feel more comfortable working with a larger group of people where everybody has their own duties, or do you feel, or how do you feel about that?
I feel that that would be something I would just have to get used to. Anything would be, satisfactory towards me. Maybe just helping each other with different duties would be fine also.
I see. Is there something in dental assisting that you've done so far that you particularly dislike to do?
Not really. Nothing I've encountered yet.
Well, I mean, dislike, I don't mean that you wouldn't do, but something that you prefer perhaps have someone else do. I noticed when you said that you like the team situation better, perhaps there was something that you wanted to just let someone else do and not do.
Yes, maybe some aspects of the lab work. I have a better idea of doing more chairside and office management. So maybe some aspects of lab.
Okay. Well then, on that same note, is there something you like perhaps best to do?
Yes, working directly with the patient. I like the chairside idea the best. It gives me a more personalized view of the whole situation.
That's good. That's what I was looking for. I'm looking for a chairside assistant so we can do some four-handed dentistry. And I'm very pleased to know that that's what you like best to do. Do you feel that there is something that you'd like to receive more training in doing?
Basically, working more with different maybe works with, procedures with the dentist. Just working more in that aspect, getting more experience.
I noticed that you worked in Dr. Smith's office. Can you tell me what your duties were there?
Yes, I worked as a chairside four-handed dental assistant. And I also did a lot of the dental management, maybe like considering answering the phone, filing, pegboard system of, management. And also I did a few lab things, and it was a very good situation because I even did some x-ray taking, and it was a full load and very good for me.
That's very good. And did you work for other private practices? I know you just you listed 2 people. Did you work for both these people?
Yes, I did.
Very good. And also you have some clinical experience. And how long have you been working there?
That was for a 7-week block, and we got varied. It was according for our internship, and we got a varied job opportunity there, including all the things I mentioned that I did at the private office. So.
Well, very good. Well, basically in our office, I'm looking for someone to do chairside assisting, four-handed dentistry. There will be some lab duties when it's necessary. I don't expect there to be a lot of lab. I particularly enjoy seeing children, although we do treat everyone. It's a general dentistry that we do here.
Because I do enjoy pedodontics. That's one of my major concerns is working with children.
I noticed from your resume that you did mention that you would like pedo, and that's exactly what we also like. I don't specialize in pedo, but I find I get along very well with children. And also we'd like the assistant to be in tune with our office. We like a preventively oriented office, and we expect the assistant to carry out and to reinforce some of our health educational measures. Also, there may be times when the receptionist may be ill or may be away, and I may expect you to take over the duties for that. But that generally the position that we're looking for is someone to fill in as a chairside assistant.
I see. Very good.
We have, our pay scale is, we pay about $5 an hour. We'd like to have a 6-week trial period, after which time we will start your Blue Cross benefits, and at that time we'll have a reevaluation, and we'll see whether you like our office or we work and get along as a team.
Very good.
Are there any questions that you have?
You pretty well covered it. I was looking for the four-handed environment. Also, the benefits are very well, and consideration of salary is fine.
I see. Okay. I didn't mention we do have a one-week paid vacation every year, and I would like it to be taken the same time I take mine, then we just close the office.
Okay, fine.
Okay. Well, are there any hobbies that you'd like to tell me about? Sometimes we do deal with a lot of children, and sometimes people have special interests. And what do you do as sort of an avocation in your spare
Well,
time?
I do enjoy sports a lot. I play a lot of tennis, and I like to go snow skiing. And also, I keep an aquarium at home, and I breed fish, tropical fish.
You do?
So,
That's very interesting. Do you have a lot of, have you been doing this for many years? And
yes, I have.
how large an aquarium do you have?
We have a 10-gallon right now, and also a 5-gallon. And we're experimenting with all different types of tropical fish. So.
Now, my office is in Ann Arbor, and I notice you do live in Dearborn. Do you plan to continue living in Dearborn, or would you consider moving to Ann Arbor? Or?
I would consider moving to Ann Arbor, and therefore I would take the idea of commuting every day out of the picture. So.
Do you find that's getting to be
Yes,
tiresome?
I believe so, and even for a job, which you are required to be there on time all the time also. So.
I was wondering with gas being what it is.
Yes, gas and all, it all plays a
It
part.
would be rather a long drive.
Yes.
Day after day. Well, Cindy, I'm interviewing some other applicants, but I will get back to you in, I'd say at the maximum 10 days, a week to 10 days, and I'll let you know at that time what our decision is.
Fine. Thank you, Doctor, for your consideration about my applicancy, and I would very much enjoy working in your office.
Well, thank you. It's been very pleasant talking with you too, Cindy.
My pleasure.
Hope to see you again soon.
Well, let's talk about this interview, and I think perhaps to begin with, let's look at some of the more positive aspects that we can point out on this interview.
I think basically the opening was real good. The dentist seemed to put the applicant at ease by talking about small talk, so to speak, without going directly into questions. And I think this was a good positive point in the interview.
Sure.
There was a good exchange, a lot of positive ideas, both ways. I think it's very important for the applicant to convey her feelings, but also the dentist to convey the feeling, the general atmosphere of the office, and what exactly the job is all about.
Some people refer to this as a sandwich technique. You start out talking about the applicant, and you talk about the job, and then you return to the applicant again and make that person feel comfortable and happy about the experience. It's a technique that's similarly used when you have to discipline an employee. You talk about some good things that they've done, and you go to the bad, and then you come back to some of the good things again so that they feel good about it. I think it was well done.
It was a very comfortable interview. I think both the dentist and the applicant were very at ease. They communicated very well.
Also, the questioning was, I think, real good. The questions that were asked were open-ended, which allowed the applicant to come out and give information, and were not questions that could be answered yes or no.
I think one of the things you have to watch for when you're interviewing someone is that you don't respond with the same response. Oh, that's very good. Oh, that's very good. Oh, that's very good. You get the feeling that they said, you know, I just broke my leg today. You would say, oh, that's very good. So you want to pace yourself and have various kinds of responses, as well as make sure that the applicant knows that you're really listening to what they say. Okay? Their answers are more important than your questions. And a good applicant will want to be telling you things, and you should listen for some key words.
Do you think there should be a trial period? It was mentioned in there that there would be I think a several-week, 5-week trial period or something like that. Is that an acceptable sort of thing to put into a job interview?
I definitely think it is. All of our employees are hired with a trial period, and during that period there are no benefits, and at the beginning or at the end of the trial period we start all of our benefit programs and reevaluate the employee and let them know exactly where they stand.
I think it's acceptable, but if you get to the point where you only have one or two applicants who are very marginal, and you don't want to be forced into hiring either, you might hire one of them on a temporary basis and say, I haven't made a decision, would you like to work on a temporary hourly basis until we complete our process? And then at the end of that period of time, they may turn out to be very good, and you could put them on regular, or else they would understand that you're going to continue interviewing for a regular employee.
Is there any benefit in terms of time by putting a lot of these things on paper and sending them out to the applicants in terms of the benefits of the job? I mean, it was discussed there about, well, we give you a 1 week's vacation and we pick up your Blue Cross, and this is what the salary rate is. And is it not true that perhaps some of these things maybe should be given in advance before an interview, so that the person doesn't waste their time coming in and saying, oh, well, you pay $5 an hour, I expect $7 an hour, this kind of thing?
We have a written office policy which we give to everyone at the time of the interview, and we let them look it over before I come in and talk to them. Also, on our questionnaire, on our application form, we have a little question at the bottom that what would you expect as a starting wage, which is a good question because it gives you a good idea. If someone puts a very low number, you wonder about that person, or if someone asks a very high wage, you have to question that too. So I kind of feels out an applicant.
Right.
But it really clarifies things to have it written. It saves your time as well as their time, and it leaves no question about what the benefits are.
It also saves problems in the future when, at the end of the trial period, the applicant goes, well, I thought you were going to pay this, or I thought you had life insurance, or you had this and that, and where are all of these things? All of our employees go over our office policy and initial them, and every time we make a change, then everyone reviews it and initials it.
Right.
Again, coming back to the perspective of dental students and new graduates, many people think they can go out into practice and essentially fly by the seat of their pants and say, well, you know, when the applicant comes in, maybe I'll pay them $4 an hour or $2.50 or $3, and I don't know, should I pay Blue Cross or what? And I guess what I'm gathering here is that many of these procedures are very standardized, and many of these things are really by the book, and I think that would probably help a practice quite a bit.
Well, unfortunately, I don't think that most private practitioners offer enough benefits. I think they're going to pick up someone they think for a minimal amount of money and offer them nothing. But what I'm looking for in my practice is a long-term employee. I really am looking for someone to join my team and stay with it. So I've, over the years, added a number of things that are going to retain employees.
Mm-hmm. Could we move a little bit now to getting into the sort of decision process? We've interviewed 4 or 5 candidates. How do we treat these candidates, and how do we come to some decision? I noticed in the interview it was mentioned that, well, we'll contact you within a week or 10 days, definitely, one way or the other is. Is there some acceptable method of doing this? How do you treat these applicants, and how do you come to a decision about them? Joe?
Well, I think what you said, I don't think it was said in the interview, but he said that we would contact you within 10 days. I assume that meant either positively or negatively, and people do appreciate you calling them and say, I'm sorry you didn't get the job. Mm-hmm. They may not like to hear that, but at least they'd like to know whether they did or not.
Should that be by mail, or I mean, should you notify people by mail or phone call, or is it necessary to be in writing, or?
It's not necessary to be in writing. I think a phone call is rather nice.
We generally make a phone call, and I found a lot of the people that don't get the position are often asking, well, what did I do wrong? And I think maybe in the long run that helps them to improve their interview a little bit, or improve their outlook on what they're going for.
I think probably in the final analysis, when you look at, say, 2 or 3 equally qualified people, your decision is still going to be somewhat subjective, and you may base it on appearance. I noticed in the interview, the appearance of this young lady was, I think, exceptional, and I think that this was one thing in her favor. So sometimes you'll come down to a decision where you're just going to have to say, I like this one, or I seem to get along with this particular person a little bit better than the other ones that I've interviewed.
Mm-hmm. So a little personal thing comes in there also.
I also like to have other members of my staff come in and chit-chat with the person, because I'm not the only one that's going to be working with this person. We have a large team, and to find the right person to fit into that particular niche, I think is very important.
But also, I don't think you can let personality or attractiveness be too much of an influence on you. I think that tends to happen, and sometimes it overshadows the information that's really on the application form or that employee's work experience. Another thing that overshadows it for many employers is the fact that the employee or the applicant was nervous. I hear very frequently, I didn't like that person because she was so nervous during the interview. Well, it's natural to be nervous during an interview situation. I have it just the opposite. A young man interviewing for a custodial position the other day, he came in, and just draped himself over a chair, and he started out the interview by saying, I wouldn't work for anything less than $6.50 an hour. Now, he was relaxed, and he wasn't nervous at all, but he didn't get the job.
Well, I think you expect a certain amount of composure because that assistant is going to be meeting the public and being thrown into different situations all the time, and you don't want someone that's going to fumble through every new encounter.
Right.
Thank you for your comments. Our guests today have been Mr. Joseph Consani from the University of Michigan, Dr. Barbara Weir, a private practitioner, and Dr. Ray Falasco from the University of Michigan. We hope you'll join us for other programs in this series that are designed to assist you in achieving success in your dental practice.
You've been listening to a presentation from the University of Michigan School of Dentistry, which is dedicated to supporting open learning and open educational resources. This recording is licensed under the Creative Commons. It may be reused and redistributed for nonprofit use. Please attribute materials to the University of Michigan School of Dentistry and redistribute under this same license. For more information on how this and other University of Michigan School of Dentistry recordings may be used, visit www.dent.umich.edu/license.